Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where last episode we have been working on designing our Duna colony here. We've got a habitation module out over here, we've got a fuel production module and storage out over here. And then we've of course got our life support that we had previously designed. We've got this junction node, but then there's also this like recycling node. I don't know if that's going to be a thing or not. We'll see. This is separate from this junction node. I want to be very clear about that. So that seems fine. I'm just looking at this line here and I'm thinking this is a little too high up now, isn't it? It probably is. This is probably never going to be perfect. We can probably adjust this forever, but we just got to get it close enough. So that's fine for now. It's probably golden. So that looks good. Now what we need to do is we need to be asking the question, how much ore do we have to produce for this convertitron? Now keep in mind, we're not working on fabricating any rocket parts right now. We're not working on fabricating any metal ore right now. We're just working on the fuel aspect of this. So a foundry is going to be another module, but for right now, we're going to do a mining module. And that is going to include, it's going to include ore mining, but I think it should also include augers, because they're basically the same thing. So the first question I had is what I said previously. How many drills do we need to feed this convertitron? So let's find out here. We've got our ISRU, and that's a Convertitron 250. So this inputs half a point of ore per second at liquid fuel and oxidizer. Okay, so in that case, we know we want Drillimatics, and this will output, in theory, 1.5 ore per second. But the actual value will probably be lower. We know that on the moon where we were located, we were getting about 0.2 ore per second, which means that for our previous convertitron, which actually, let me just save this and let's hop over there real quick and let's just double check this. I'm going to load this in and I will be back when we're there. Okay, so here we are over at this mess. This is obviously way worse looking than what we're making. No doubt about that. Now, this is a Convertitron 125 here, and I think that these are a little less efficient and not generally a great thing to do. But what we're really curious about is what our ore rate is on this. 0.02. So we know that the bigger one can eat up to 0.5 ore per second. This guy here, the Convertitron 125, I'm not sure what that one can do. But there we go. We'll just get that going. So that's fine. We'll head on back to the Space Center. So 0.022, huh? If we assume it's going to be a similar rate, which it almost certainly won't be, but if we assume it's going to be similar, that's going to be a pretty close to a worst case scenario, I feel like, 0.022. That's pretty low efficiency, no doubt about that. So with that in mind, how many of those would we need to equal 0.05? 0.05, or actually 0.5 divided by 0.022 would be 23 of those that we would need. Okay, that's kind of a lot. That's kind of a whole lot. So that's understood. First things first then, we're going to just duplicate this. Remember, we can always have extra mining modules. So that's fine. This is going to end up being rather small, I think. So this is a small holding tank here, allowing us to store up to 300 ore. So if we have, say, 4 of these, that's approximately the length of some of these others. So that should be reasonably fine. And then we put in a coupling. There we go. We put in a Clampatron docking port junior out over here, angled like that. And then, of course, we're going to need to put some of these wheels on, and this is probably going to get fairly heavy, so I think what I'm going to do here is one set of wheels. This is not rotating the way I want it to. There we go. One set of wheels per per, where is it? It's in here somewhere. There we go, per holding tank. So that's going to end up going approximately here. And then we'll get another one in about here. There we go. And then we'll get another one in over here. Now, I'm keeping an eye on our ever-increasing cost of this thing. We really only are going to need one more module after this one, so that seems relatively fine. So next up, we're of course going to need to do this around on this side. So we're going to have this be approximately here, and approximately here, and approximately here, and approximately here. Okay, so something kind of like that. Again, I expect this to be relatively heavy. Then we're, of course, going to need to get some drills on this. And I am thinking that this might end up being too low and pushing us up. Maybe we attach the drills up here. I don't love the way that that looks. I suppose we could add a modular girder strut here, or not even a modular girder, a cubic octagonal strut that would go right here. Maybe even a second one. And then add a drill-o-matic on that. So kind of like this, and then if that gets extended... Yeah, that's probably high up enough. I really don't love the way it looks. It looks very dumb, doesn't it? It truly does look dumb. But this does give us space to put augers here, which I do want to do. And keep in mind, we don't have any metal storage here. And we're going to probably need some cooling for these as well. So what I'm thinking about that is that we would do a small thermal control system. So this can cool up to, in theory, 3,000 kilowatts. We're going to go with the core heat X for here of 50 kilowatts. So what is that going to end up being being needed here? Required cooling of 100 kilowatts. Okay, so we're probably going to need to not go with the smalls. We're probably going to need to go with the mediums for this. That can go up to 250 kilowatts in theory. So the idea there then would be that we would attach this to like the micro node, or maybe even to a cubic octagonal strut that goes on top of this micro node, like this. And then it would go kind of like that. I mean, if we do this all the way down, we'll definitely have a pretty decent amount of cooling on this. That's for sure. I'm wondering about heat transfer. I feel like heat transfer is definitely a concern there. And I really still don't like the way that this looks. I really, really don't. But I don't really know of a way around this right now. We need the larger drills. And I don't think that there's a way in... Yeah, this is the only way to mine ore here, other than inline drills. And there's also the metal ore drill. Now that's interesting. So this has an attachment point on both sides. Let's do some checking here. So the metal ore drill, if we deployed this, it deploys like that. Fascinating. I'm wondering about heat generation. Required cooling of 50 kilowatts. Okay. So, here's what I'm thinking then. How much does this produce? This produces, this metal ore, 0.75, and this produces 0.75. So it's not as much as the Drillimatics. 75% base efficiency. So we're going to have to test this and see if it works. That's understood. So for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to detach this guy. I'm going to put a metal ore drill right there. Then I'm going to detach this guy, and we're going to put an inline drill. And that's going to go like that, and then it gets deployed downward. Yes. Like that. And then we're going to do another inline drill here, for sure. Honestly, I'm kind of thinking about changing the way that I have this planned to go here. Can we attach radiators to this? No. Okay. So that's good to know. So what I'm thinking about doing is, let's see, metal ore. So that's metal ore storage. That's a metal ore container. That's a metal ore drill. So we've got this guy here. It's very large. And then there's this, which is, you know, even larger. That's not really what we're looking for. So let's see. That's a rocket parts hex can. Not really what we're looking for either. So what we really need here is some amount of metal ore storage. So what I'm thinking is 2 of these, assuming that they have correct efficiencies, right? 2 of these are equivalent to 1 of the large drills. But these definitely fit in a lot better. So what if we had an ore storage module in addition to our mining module? So what that ends up meaning is that we would pop this off here, pop this off and get rid of it. Pop this off and get rid of that. And then we would have our inline drill here. And I'd like to rotate it to be the same rotation as the other one. Thank you very much. There we go, like that. So we have an inline drill here, and then we have perhaps like 4 of these. And then we have just the 1 metal ore drill. Now, the important thing about the metal ore drill is that makes it so that we don't have to smelt. Hang on. The augers produce metal ore as well. Okay, never mind. 0.28 T per minute. Okay. Hang on. So that's the inline drill there. I want the metal ore drill, though. So this produces how much? 0.75 per second. So I think that's a lot faster than those augers were, and the augers were pretty quick. So 1 of these is probably enough. Now then, as far as heat generation on this goes, I do expect this to be fairly significant. We're going to have to run tests on this for sure. So let's put a medium thermal control system right up over here. And let's put another one right over here. And we'll see how much heat that actually generates. So this is going to be able to store ore. It can't currently store any metal ore. So we're going to need to definitely be able to do that. So we've got these hexcan metal ores here. What size is this? Actually, that'll fit in pretty okay. How much can that store? That can store 26.6 metal ore. I mean, that's probably enough to work with. We don't need to hold metal ore for long periods of time, in theory. So we can put metal ore there and metal ore here. This is not intended to have huge amounts of long-term storage. Both of these are intended to be processed pretty quickly. So that's fine for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to save this, and we're going to put this out on the pad. Obviously, oh, it has too many parts. The VAB can't support that. Right. So we could split this off, but I don't want to do that. How much will it cost us to upgrade the VAB? That's going to be pretty expensive right now. Let's find out. We could make a save, upgrade the VAB, do the test and then reload the save. That's an option. That's pretty expensive. Okay. I'm going to do it. We're going to make a save right here. Quick saved. Now we're going to upgrade the VAB. The plan is to revert back to that quick save. I just want to run a quick simulation and see if our heat transfer is working correctly here. So that's the idea here. So we're going to put this out on the pad, and this pad is going to be very exciting. Because I think we're going to be way too big for this pad, and this thing is probably going to sag all over the place. Let's see how bad this is. Again, we're planning on reverting back to that save. Okay, this loading took a hot minute. I'm not sure what blew up over here. It was the wheels. Okay, we can live without the wheels for now. So that's okay. We're going to hop this thing over to... I don't even want to... Blast awesomeness. Okay, I don't even want to hop this over to the moon, or rather to Duna. I'm just going to set this on Minmus. I don't care where, just somewhere on Minmus. The pitch is going to need to be 90, I think. Okay, so let's set this on Minmus for a quick test. Nope, pitch does not need to be 90. Pitch of 0? Sure. That works. However, I don't like this position. Let's middle mouse click to set position. Can we grab this out over here? No. That's sad. So let's just move our way over this direction for now. We don't have to go all that far. Where are we? We are currently right here. Sure. So we just are like 16.1 kilometers from our previous landing site. I don't know what happened to the camera there. That's exciting. Angling is awkward. Where are we? We're wildly offset. Okay. Yes, wildly offset indeed. This is not terribly flat. But it's probably good enough. So we're just going to let this come on down. And the idea here is that we want to test that these actually function. So do they have minimum requirements for their resource thresholds? Does the heat transfer work? Those are the questions that we have. So brakes should be on. And yes, we're kind of waggling all over the place right now. That's reasonably expected. We'll just let this settle for a moment. This is not how we're going to be deploying this long term, of course. Actually, you know what? We can just hop over here. And this is not actually giving us our latitude and longitude. Okay, whatever. It's fine. So this should be good enough. Let's go ahead and deploy these guys. So I'm going to deploy all of these surface harvesters here. These tanks should be empty, and they are. This tank should be empty as well, and it is. Okay, so now the question is, with these drills here, their thermals are a question, and their efficiency is a question. Okay, let's go ahead and start this here. Thermal efficiency looks good. It has good surface load. Metal ore rate is on the low side, but I don't actually care about that right now. As long as we have some production, it'll be okay. So, there's that, and then we want to extend this, and we should probably extend at least some of these guys. Are we going to have a conflict here? No, I don't think we are. Okay, that looks good. I just jettisoned a 1/4 point of ore. Oh, we have a small holding tank on this. I forgot about that. Okay, so we can store quite a lot of ore. So this ISRU over here is going to need to get started, and I want to check in here. Yeah, so it looks like our thermals are good. No thermal issue there. This is actually producing more ore, at least in this location, than it did with the others on Moon. So that looks great. And keep in mind, we're not planning on launching this all in one piece, so we're probably not going to have to upgrade the VAB, but we might. And if we have to, we have to. It's not the end of the world. Okay, so everything is looking pretty okay here. We're definitely making liquid fuel and oxidizer, and it's going at a pretty good rate. Core temperature here is good. So I think everything is working functionally at this point. And we can come down over here, of course. These are just containers. But we can start farming on our greenhouse container, and we can start cultivation on our algae farm. That's going to be producing fertilizer. This is going to be producing food. And we can, of course, this lacks oxygen. Yes, that's to be expected. And we can start our carbon extractor. And our water purifier. And our water purifier. Now, do we have a source of additional water here? Well, the answer to that is no. So we might actually be net negative on water for this. Let's warp forward a little bit and find out. Water is actually going up right now. Okay, so we're not getting a lot of metal ore here, and that's unsurprising. Okay, water looks good, actually. Yeah, I'm not concerned about that. So let's reload the quick save that we made just before we did this, which should be this one. And that should put us back in the state where the VAB is unupgraded. So that definitely tells me that we're good on a lot of this stuff. So one thing I'm thinking about doing... What? This is not the quick save I thought it was. Okay. What quick save do we need to have here? 321? Probably this one. Okay. Sometimes it puts the most recent quick save at the top, and sometimes it doesn't. It's a little bit unpredictable that way. But overall, I'm thinking about including a second metal ore drill. And if we do that, we might need more cooling, but I think our cooling was fine, to be honest. So each of those is requiring 50 cooling, right? And I want to hop into the tracking station, make sure that this is the correct save. It should be. Yes, this is correct. Okay, fantastic. So with that done, I want to hop back into the VAB, and I'm definitely thinking about adding in a second metal ore drill. So that would be heading into the VAB here. And we need to think about how much cooling we have for these parts. I think we have enough for them, but let's find out. So each of those is 250, right? So the Duna colony is this guy. There we go. So each of these is 250 on these thermal control systems, correct? Let's double check that. Medium thermal control system is 250. Yeah. So then each of these inline drills requires 50. So these four require 200 cooling. This one requires 50 cooling. So that should, in theory, maximize one of these two thermal control systems. So we should not have a problem if we just slap another metal ore drill right in here. And let's just rotate it to be, I think that's inverted. Like that. So a metal ore drill like that, the only question that I would have at this point is heat transfer, but I think the heat transfer will be okay. So we'll leave that be for the time being. That looks good. Now we've gotten our mining component finished up, our mining module. So if we want to get more of these going on Duna, we could just manufacture another one of these. It'll probably take a bunch of parts. That's understood. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate our junction node. I don't think that worked correctly. I'm going to duplicate our junction node. There we go. And I'm going to rotate this guy around, not like that. Yeah, this will work. we're going to put a junction node right there. So the idea here is that I definitely want to have some junction nodes here and there. I'm going to get rid of this guy up here. That's irrelevant to us right now. And we're going to have to start making our production nodes. So something out over here is probably going to end up being, and I'm a little concerned about clearance here. That might be a concern. We might have to space these nodes out ever so slightly more. In fact, I think I'm going to do that. Let's move this guy out. Let's move a cubic octagonal strut in here like this. And then move this guy out. Duplicate this. Put it there. Grab this cubic octagonal strut. For some reason, this rotated on us. Put it in like that. And then we can do the same thing here and here. Okay, so that gives us a little bit more clearance. We might need even more, though. Actually, yeah, I'm going to do this one more time. So 2 cubic octagonal struts here that are being added in just to add a little bit more space clearance. Because I'm definitely concerned about collisions in that regard. So let's just do that. Okay, now I'm going to duplicate this guy again, rotate it not that way, that way. And we're going to put this out over here. I don't know why it dropped it there. Sure. We're going to get rid of this. Grab this guy and put it there. Like that. Okay, so that'll do for now. That should get us a decent amount of additional clearance, hopefully. So the next thing that I want to do is the fabrication. This is going to mean that we're going to need to turn metal ore into metal, and we're also going to need to turn metal into rocket parts. Will that be 1 or 2 modules here? I don't know. That's an interesting question, but it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we'll find out. Maybe one of these going this way will be rocket part production and storage, and then like one going this way will be metal ore production and storage, or rather metal production and storage. That could definitely be a thing. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.